I think you ought to know. That Men's Radio. The place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show. It's Men's Radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, it won't cost you no dough. Men's Radio, that's the place for you. With Russ, Kane, and Phil Dave.
Yeah, I always point the wrong way. Hang on. Russ, Kane, and Phil Dave. There we go. So it's the opposite.
You need to point the opposite of what you're seeing on the screen. So in other words, you're on my left. You're actually I'm looking at you on my left, but actually I have to point to the right to point to you.
Fantastic. It's fantastic. Are you well? Everything okay?
This is why you and I could never be weather presenters, you see. Because
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. They're looking at nothing.
Down is it's like up is north. So no, it's not. Up is south. Down is north. South. It's very strange. And then
I don't understand. I don't know how on earth they do it.
It's very
they're looking at absolutely nothing whatsoever. Let's go to northeastern United States before we get on to all things theatre. Good day, Russ, Phil, and my fellow audience members. Somebody, it's amazing. The chances someone's got the same surname as you, Linda Darvey.
Well, quite. Actually, now, do you know what? Darvey is a surname, and actually, not too far from where you reside, there is an optician's
called Darvey.
The actual surname of Darvey. And
I know there is
many an occasion I have been asked as to whether or not I'm any relation, to which I have to point out that no.
Oh, and Grandpa's on his way somewhere. He says, "Greetings from the plane, which is an hour late." Well,
I'd say thank goodness. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to tune in.
Yeah, I'm sure he's thrilled. I'm sure. Time for a Kleenex. Time to wipe my nose. Right. You see, I'm getting you in a theatre mood because.
Oh, is that what that was?
I don't know what the hell it is. I don't know. I just needed to. Don't know. Yes, there we are. Lovely theatre background, and we present, ladies and gentlemen, our very own king of the first nights, king of the stalls, the man first in the queue when there's ice cream in the interval. And I know because I've seen him do it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Bass.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, JB.
Yet again, a spectacular introduction that it's really hard to beat.
You're going to try.
It's nice to be back with the two of you as well.
Oh, quite, yes.
What a treat.
Absolutely.
It'll be an increasingly rare thing if this schedule keeps up. But anyway, there we are.
Anyway, Jonathan, just before we take a deep dive into the world of theatre, I'm afraid there's a little teensy bit of live producing happening now because we didn't have the chance to speak beforehand when we were off air. Just need to ask you to raise your microphone ever so slightly because it's doing, as we say in the trade, over modding, which means that it's being spoken too directly into. So if you raise the arm of your microphone slightly, that'd be marvelous. Or lower it, either way. That's
better?
That's so much better. There we go. Because now it means that we don't overmod. Thank you. Right.
I'd hate to be overmodding, and thank you for that. Good. Right. So
I'll be honest with you. There was quite a selfish motivation. It was to save my ears listening to it for half an hour.
I like listening to Jonathan at any volume.
Right. A few shows to talk about today. First was a trip to the Royal Albert Hall last week to see Cirque du Soleil's Allegria in a new light, as they're calling it.
Isn't that Vanessa Feltz's daughter? What's the whole show about her?
Okay, that's I believe that I actually have seen the original Allegria, and I have to say I think it is super. It was superb. So I'd love to know what the reimagined.
Correct. I mean, yeah, and you've corrected me again, Phil, not only on my microphone but on my pronunciation of Allegria,
Well, I don't look at it as correction because I say, well, I look at you to the superior knowledge of theatre, so I wouldn't correct you as such.
And I'm still thinking of the British Leyland Austin Allegro, but Allegria.
God awful car that was. Jeez, had a square steering wheel when no one needed a square steering wheel, and panel gaps you could see from the International Space Station. Yeah. Oh.
Anyway, did me proud through my late teenage years. Well, one of those. Allegria in a new light. I did not see, I have to say, I think it's many years ago, Allegria first came to the Royal Albert Hall. So this was my first time seeing the Allegria show. And I've seen the Cirque du Soleil productions that they've staged here in recent years, and that they've all been stunning. But there's something particularly beautiful about this show. It starts, in my opinion, with the fact that all of the music is live. Usually the Cirque du Soleil soundtrack is a very well recorded and immaculately played as well in the acoustics of the Royal Albert Hall. It's a recorded soundtrack. In this instance, it's 5 musicians, 2 singers, absolutely gorgeous. But
sounds like the love child then of Cirque du Soleil and Riverdance then, because of course Riverdance was famous for all of the music being live as well.
Yeah, just without the Irish dancing. Other than that, I couldn't tell the difference.
I'm not going to any show where they move their arms. Any show where they move their arms, I'm not telling.
I think if they all wore black clogs in Cirque du Soleil, you would not be able to tell the difference between Riverdance and Allegria in a new light. Or it would be Allegria in a very different light.
Good to know.
Anyway, and what's also particularly nice about this show is that sometimes Cirque du Soleil productions portray this fantastical futuristic world that's all a bit grim and dystopian and a little bit ugly, but the circus stuff that goes on there is remarkable and mind-boggling. Suffice to say, the circus stuff that's going on at the Royal Albert Hall now until the 3rd of March remains outstanding. It's unmatched. But the storyline, such as there is just a little bit more beautiful. It's gone from dystopia to utopia, a phrase that I quite liked as I penned that one earlier this week. It's really lovely. The skills, the circus skills, are very traditional acts. There's a lot of people, but the traditional circus just done ridiculously
any lion
clever.
Taming? Any lions?
No.
Tigers,
Well, Cirque du Soleil have never used live animals.
Oh, I'm not going again. They move their arms and there's no lions. What's the point?
That's what that's one of their attractive features. And to be fair, there have been other smaller circus companies who also I tend to rave about, largely because most circus performers have got more physical talent in their little finger than I've ever amassed in my entire 4 limbs in my life. The acts are fabulous. They do very clever things with poles. That's bamboo poles, not people who come from Poland.
Well, that's since we left the EU, that could be quite tricky. Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry, bamboo.
So they do very clever things with poles.
Well, they're just loads of electricians walking on,
sorting out your plumbing. And the aerial work is gorgeous. There are a couple of clowns who pop up every now and then. But I would possibly say a little bit too often for my liking. The clowns at times get a little bit too much of them. There's a wonderful scene just before the interval where they incredibly fill the whole of the Royal Albert Hall with a blizzard. And it's a very simple thing.
Whoa, hang on a sec. So what the whole Albert Hall?
The whole Albert Hall. It's not real stuff.
To anyone who's not been there, by the way, it's a pretty large space.
It's huge.
It's very big space, and the visuals of this place being filled in a flurry of paper snowflakes is actually quite something.
I don't envy the people who have to clear it up at the end of every day.
You know, the moment you said that, Phil and I both had one thought: someone's got to clear it all up.
Yeah, someone has to clear it up, and I guess particularly in between the matinee and the evening show.
Oh my God, it's like the end of a Kiss concert.
High-pressured job. But the point is, the circus acts that are on display are just gorgeous. I've never found a circus show to be as exciting and as relaxing as this one was. It really took me into another world. Sheer beauty. It's not a cheap ticket to see Cirque du Soleil, but gosh, the cast is massive, the technical crew is massive, the equipment that they use is huge. The rigging that they set up around the Albert Hall, gosh, and all the safety stuff that must go with it that we don't even get a glimpse of is massive. So again, it's one of those shows where you can see where the money is being spent. It's not cheap, but it is bloody good.
Let's just do a little bit of an examination, Dr. Bears. When you're saying not cheap, you said it twice. Give everyone a clue.
What are we talking?
Yeah.
Oh, you know something? I haven't got the prices in front of me.
Well, we're talking like 20 quid, 50 quid, 100 quid, 250 quid.
I think we're into three figures for the best seats. It's obviously worth a Google, and I'm sure probably there may even be bargains to be found. I don't know, at the last minute ticket agencies or those people who.
Now, I have to tell you, hang on a second. I'm just having a little butcher's right now.
Go on.
And I don't know whether or not I've got the correct website here. I hope I have. But the ticket prices seem to start at around £69, which, don't get me wrong, is still obviously quite pricey. £61.
You're not going on your own, are you?
Yeah, no, I know, £61. But as you say, if they are stage side, then no, they're about £165.
Yeah. So it's not cheap, but the size of the show, the scale of the show, the beauty of the show is magnificent. The final act is a flying trapeze set, which it takes them a couple of minutes to get all the netting rigged up. Because there is in some of the acts, you can see that the artistes are wearing safety wires so that if heaven forbid they fall, there's a safety wire to catch them. For the flying trapeze, they do actually set up a massive safety net that sort of straddles a lot of the hall, does not affect anyone's vision or sight of what's going on. And you then have a blur of 10 performers literally flying through the heights of the Royal Albert Hall, doing ridiculously talented stuff with split-second timing.
Did you recognize Phil?
Yeah,
he's the only one wearing a cravat.
I was going to say
one of the people sweeping
the flying
up the
cravat.
Flying cravat.
Did look possible familiar. One of the people with the broom sweeping up the snowflakes. Now that you mention it,
so rude.
How could you? As if.
But really, very, very lovely. And if you're able to get to see it, it's not a disappointment. As I say, any circus performer who performs in London, be it a lower budget show that occasionally pops up in Hammersmith from time to time or Highgate, or this wondrous stuff at the Royal Albert Hall, the performers are all geniuses with what they can do with their bodies.
Can I make a big confession, JB? I have never, ever seen Cirque du Soleil. I have no idea what it looks like.
Whoa.
Not a clue. Well, never interested.
Honestly, can't recommend them highly enough.
No,
is that a pitch to be? Is that a pitch to be a +1 next year?
Well, if you're going, it'd be rude to say no. I have no idea what it's. But everyone who goes says, "Oh, it's absolutely wonderful." But I loathe circuses with a passion.
I actually think the name circus though is very misleading because this is poetry in the air is the only way I can describe it. You've never really seen anything like it, I don't think. Because just the talent of the people involved in Cirque du Soleil. I mean, we're not talking about someone who decided at the age of 12 they were going to run away with the circus and then go throw balls up in the air. These are people who work all their flaming life to achieve the most remarkable skills that I think I've ever seen any human being do ever.
And this,
I'm not alone.
Their agility, their strength, it's breathtaking. And as I say, this particular one is beautiful. I was thinking, before I went, it's Cirque du Soleil. It had been a busy day, etc., etc. However, I have to say it was pure. It really was pure escapism, and very, very lovely.
Now, it's not very often. It's not very often that this happens, but I have one to throw back at you, sir, which I don't know whether or not you've had the chance to see yet. But if you haven't, I can highly recommend it. I have been to see The King and I this week, which is the latest production of it, starring Helen George and, forgive me, the chap's name's totally escaped me at the moment, so I'll look it up and find out. But
it's the King.
The chap who plays the King. Yes.
Well, he is the King.
Yes, but the chap who plays the King. So,
yeah.
But any old way. All I know is that it was Darren Lee, of course. All I know is that absolutely fantastic. As in, just when you sort of thought that there was no no, shall we say, conventional nod to the theatre left, because people seem to be so hell-bent on all the wrong
Ruining.
sorts of things these days, shall we say.
God, ruining
And
it.
this was just beautifully cast, superb production. Helen George, if you don't know who Helen George is, she's Trixie from Call the Midwife. My goodness me, she can sing. Wow, what a voice. Absolutely
You are
fantastic. Highly
pregnant.
recommend it.
You are pregnant. You're having a baby. There you go. That was one of the big hits from the show.
I've not seen this one yet. I think, remind me, is this a reprisal of the revival that happened a few years ago with a new cast, obviously?
I don't know if it was so much a few years ago per se. All I know is that Helen George did a small stint on tour. I think it was summer last year, and it sold out so ridiculously quickly that they had to redo the tour. And I think now, if I'm not very much mistaken, I think I've heard this correctly, is going to Broadway. So it's been superbly successful. It's absolutely blooming brilliant.
Linda Darvey is saying that it's only on for 6 weeks. And for 6 weeks, I got to say, Jonathan, they're doing a hell of a lot of advertising. I'm on the tube all the time, and the posters are everywhere. And I have to say, they're pretty enticing because it says, I think you'll never see another better production than this. Yep. It's really excellent, blah, 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 which is a big thing. So for 6 weeks, that's quite a big ad budget.
Yeah, though I think also ad prices have tumbled as well, from what I understand. So it's but yes, they're certainly advertising it heavily. Next up that I've seen, rather than hope to see, is Cruel Intentions, currently playing at the Other Palace, which is a small theatre just around the corner from Buckingham Palace and Victoria Station. Cruel Intentions.
Hang on, where is that theatre?
The Other Palace.
You've got the Victoria Palace where things are.
The Victoria Palace is massive, and it's opposite Victoria Station, more or less. The Other Palace is round the corner. I think. Did you go and see the Ian McKellen? You did go and see the Ian. But I think you saw it in Windsor, Russ, didn't you? The Ian McKellen two-hander.
Yeah, Frank and Percy.
Yes, I think you did. I saw that at the Other Palace as well. The Other Palace, I'm not going to get too bogged down into Google Maps. Which is
no, I didn't mean that. I just never heard of it. I've just never heard of it, so I was intrigued.
Tucked around, it used to be called the St. James's Theatre, but again, even then, it's not an old classic theatre. I think the whole place has only been there for 10, 15 years. Anyway. Cruel Intentions, based on the movie, a musical that, to be honest, is more of a playlist. The songs are the songs that it drags up are fab, of the 90s: Kiss Me, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Losing My Religion, Bittersweet Symphony. The songs are strong. The performers are very, very good. Lead performer as Catherine, a particularly nasty piece of work as a character, but a sensational actress, a young woman called Rhianne Louise Mikulski, who's fresh out of Six prior to that. And I'd never heard of her, not really seen her or anything. And she's also been in Tina, where she's covered the role of Tina Turner. She is astonishing. She absolutely takes the roof off in her role. It's a lovely musical about some really unpleasant people and how they conduct themselves.
Sorry, Jonathan, that is the sentence of the day. It's a lovely musical about some really unpleasant people.
Yeah.
Coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, Rose West, the musical.
It's drawn from Les Liaisons Dangereuses, was the inspiration to Roger Cumble's 1999 movie. People get exploited, people exploit. There's a little bit of death in there. There are the trigger warnings as you walk into the show are
endless. So
lengthy, including one to suggest that the show deals with issues of consent. Consent is, of course, a serious issue in the world. But it is now to be presented with the fact that consent is discussed in this piece of art, which a musical is clearly it's a shame that we as a society need such warnings.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Do you know, this really pisses me. I'm going to be honest. Jonathan, this really hacks me off. It really, really does. Because when you go out into the street, and you go up to Tesco's or something, should there be huge billboards with trigger warning? Somebody may not like you. Somebody you love may die. This is ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
ludicrous.
It's the
nonsense.
show. I have to say, if you like those songs, if you like the music, it's really very, very good in that respect, because the cast do the songs brilliantly. They act well as well. As I say, the story, I think my closing line in my review was, don't look too closely at the cliched plot, just wallow in this glorious tribute to the 90s. And it is a tribute to the 90s soundtrack that's done extremely
So
well.
really, are we saying it's a juke? Let me finish, because I know you get annoyed. But is it like a jukebox musical? They're called jukebox musicals, where they've just crowbarred a storyline in around big tunes.
I think any show that is
weak.
any show that's bringing in songs that have been written elsewhere has to be called a jukebox musical. Now, whether that's a story that's strung around various hits from an era, such as this, or and Juliet, etc., or whether it is the Jersey Boys, which is, you know, a biopic of the Four Seasons,
but at least it has a valid reason. But at least it has a valid reason, because you're going to see something about Frankie.
That's a very subjective comment. You know, who are we to judge what is entertainment for people?
I am, because I'm in charge of everything. Everything in the world. Everything in the world I'm in charge of.
I'll take a slightly more liberal view. And if the producers work out that the show is going to entertain people, and lo and behold, people do cough up their money and put their posteriors on the seats and have a jolly good time in the theatre, whether they're seeing old songs around which a new show has been strung, or old songs around which a biopic of a band has been strung, you know, Mamma Mia, the musical.
Love
that. It's I think, you know, all musical theatre, so long as it's done well and entertains and gives the punters value for money, I'll support it.
Is it lazy?
I would say no. One of the reasons that I say to that is a lot of new writing. Some new writing is good, but a lot of new writing is mediocre. I think we've had this
at best.
Yes, we've had this conversation in the past. And so for me, I'm more concerned with, is the punter getting value for money? And if that's in fabulous new writing, you know, Lin-Manuel did it with Hamilton, which is terrific new writing. But excuse me with the clang, as Tim Rice was saying to me only last year, you know, there's a
Hang
lot
on,
of...
just going to pick that up.
Gonna say it just dropped a very big name there.
I got it.
There
I got
we
it.
go.
JB, I got it. There
Thank you. So let me drop it again. As Tim Rice said to me only last year, you know, that some new writing is good, but a lot of new writing, you know, lacks brilliance. And I think the audience are entitled really to be entertained. And so long as it's good, and if good is a very subjective word in itself, yes, I would support.
You know what?
What's called
I have a
jukebox
simple
musicals.
view. I have a very simple view on this. Give the punters what they want. People are incredibly snobby. Just a slight change of subject about for example, Mrs. Brown's Boys. I happen to think it's hilarious. Other people loathe it with a passion, which I only reserve for. I can't even remember his name. The idiot in the hat. Keith Lemon. Right, I have to leave the room or just immediately switch the channel, even if it's an advert. That's what it does to me. So, but do people enjoy it? Yeah. If you don't enjoy it, don't go to the theatre to see it, or switch channels. Don't deprive people of what they like. You know?
And I know some of my colleagues in the critical world have a very snobbish attitude towards.
Yes, they do.
Jukebox musicals, and like I say, if it pleases people, good. Just wrapping up on Cruel Intentions, directed by a chap called Jonathan O'Boyle, assistant directed and choreographed, rather associate directed, by a chap called Gary Lloyd. Gary Lloyd really has his finger on the pulse of making people dance well to modern music. He was the choreographic genius behind Thriller Live, that ran for a good few years on the Shaftesbury Avenue. I think possibly 10 years. You couldn't get more jukebox than that, but he really choreographed well. And the visuals of Cruel Intentions are lovely. And this segues very neatly into a show that's opened last week on the West End, having played in the Fringe somewhere near Hammersmith Shepherd's Bush a couple of years ago, called Rehab.
yes.
which also happens to be directed, choreographed by said Gary Lloyd. So he's had 2 shows open
He's
this week.
busy. He's busy
Rehab
taking up other
opening
people's jobs.
opened at Neon 194, a nightclub in the heart of the capital. Neon, to be honest, is not the best place to put on any show. However, and the show itself lost a little bit from when it was brilliant on the Fringe, and now coming into town. However, the show itself is very clever and very well written. It's written by a pair of songwriters, Grant Black and Murray Lachlan Young. Grant, one of the sons of the legendary Don Black.
Oh,
now
well, there you go.
CBE.
Apples and trees, eh? Apples
Indeed.
and trees.
And
Love
the
Don
show,
Black.
Rehab, it's drawn from certainly Grant Black's experience of his own time in rehab. I think 20 or so years ago, I forget offhand. And I think Murray Lachlan Young also has a personal experience of that. And the show is funny. It's very touching and poignant at times. It's loosely strung around a pop star, chap called Kid Pop, who's looking to bolster his career and his PR. He gets busted with cocaine, has to go and do rehab, and his PR guru concocts a really vile and evil plan in which to keep him in the front of the headlines, which involves all nefarious activities going on inside the rehab clinic, and then a mildly spectacular finale. I won't give any spoilers away. Inside the rehab clinic, we meet various people who've got various addictions, who are portrayed in a mixture of song and dialogue in a way that is always sensitive. We are never laughing at anyone's affliction. We're laughing with them. And at times the show takes you instantaneously from hilarity to shedding the odd tear. It's a fabulous cast, driven at the top by Keith Allen, who plays...
He scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, and he plays this lead bastard called Malcolm Stone, who could not be more based on Max Clifford than Max Clifford. He really plays an absolute piece of work. He's disgusting, and I can't think of anyone better than Keith Allen to play this character. He's
scariest actor I've ever seen in my life.
He's a genius at being
he speaks very highly of you as well.
No, he's scared. No, he's scared. He just emanates
No, I know what you mean. There's people who have a certain look about them that emanates evil. Sorry, I can't even say it. There you go.
Absolute.
I remember
monster.
Keith Allen. He was on a BBC years ago when he was young. Before I forgot his daughter's name, the singer Lily Allen. Before she was born or anything like that, when he was a young, looking very different. Don't we all? And he was on a BBC late night chat show, and he lost his temper. It was one of those, they used to do those things late at night, and they'd be sitting round in the semi-darkness in a table. It was all very BBC.
Is this back when the BBC was good?
When was that? Anyway.
Was it that far back? Good gracious.
It was that far back. Yeah, I'm going back a very long time. And he lost his temper, and he's there being interviewed with everybody else. And he then ripped into the producer as well. This is all live. And I'm sitting there like as a young guy, which I once was. I don't know these people at all. I was terrified. I was watching from home. I thought, oh, to be in that room. And he just wiped the floor with them. Wow. Oh, so he's a scary guy. He's a really good actor, but scary as hell. Maybe he's nice in real life. Who knows?
So
he's very good.
He's leading the cast. Micah Paris, I hope I pronounced that
Mika
correctly.
Paris.
Mika Paris, excuse me, is there as a rehab counsellor. It's a relatively
Mika Paris, his 6 Degrees of Separation, sang at my wife's funeral. So there you go. 6 Degrees of Separation. There you go.
Well, she has a hell of a set of pipes on her.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to. Do we mean Misha Paris?
Misha Paris, yes.
Misha yeah.
MBE.
MICA. It's
MICA. There's an MBE on the end of it.
Yeah, Misha Paris.
Misha Paris, but yes.
And
very nice woman.
she's extremely good.
A superb singer, might I say.
Absolutely.
Yes,
As a counsellor in the rehab clinic. There's the chap who plays Kid Pop, chap called Christian Maynard, very good, does a good job. A stunning performance from a young woman, Maya Kwanzaa Breed, who plays the woman that gets involved with a bit of love interest with Kid Pop and a nasty twist to the tale that the Malcolm Stone, the Keith Allen character, tries to
Stop
set
calling
up.
him Max Clifford, please.
Yes, you're right. You look at him, and if you're of that era,
we are going to be in trouble.
That is the person that you think about.
He's gone, and sadly his lovely daughter Louise has gone. So yeah, so do be careful, JB.
Some other cracking members of the cast: John Barr, Oscar. These are names that you may or may not know.
Never heard of any of these. They're just a good cast.
They're extremely good. Gary Lloyd, as I say again, directs, choreographs very, very well. Not helped by the space, because it's not a hugely familiar. So try and get a seat relatively near the front row. Otherwise,
thank you.
Sometimes the sight line might get. It's a small space, but it's a. And what I enjoyed about this the first time around, and this still holds true, is this is good new writing. This is new writing with a strong story, strong songs, a raft of melodies, and a raft of styles. It absolutely takes, as I say, takes your emotions from hilarity to tear-jerking. And it's drawn from truth, with both of the writers bringing their own experience to it. Elliot Davis has got involved in terms of actually stringing the story together, book writer. But it's come from the two songwriters. And it's worth seeing, and hopefully I think the producers are hoping that this production going on at Neon 194 will attract bigger shows, or bigger producers rather, to possibly give it a run in a proper size theatre.
Jonathan, the moment I hear that, all I can hear is the original Capital Radio 194 194 194. That's all I can hear if I hear the number 194.
I think it's at 194 Piccadilly, which is why it's called Neon.
Oh, is it 194 Piccadilly? Where the heck is that?
That is, as you go down Piccadilly from Piccadilly Circus, it's on
nearly
your
every day.
left, and I think it's certainly well before you get to the Wolsey. And there's the big bookshop now. Is that Waterstones?
Waterstones,
I think it's before you
used
get
to be
to
Simpsons.
Waterstones.
Used to be Simpsons.
Yes.
Hang on a sec. Can we bring Chantal into this, because it's an area of London she knows very well. So hi,
yes,
Chantal.
because it's right by BAFTA.
BAFTA is 195 Piccadilly, and it's not next to BAFTA.
There you go. Then Neon 194 is going to be extremely close to there.
Yeah.
And their shop window is certainly covered in rehab merch at the moment. So that is it from me for this week.
Bless you, Jonathan. That was incredibly comprehensive, in depth, and to be honest, I'd not heard of these shows, and I love it when we are brought the attention of new stuff that otherwise would slip our purview. Even now,
thank you, Jonathan.
Graham Pack is at about 35,000 feet. He started to watch the show. The plane was delayed. He's watching the show from the plane. Now he's gone.
Got them to turn around and gone to book some theatre tickets.
Jonathan,
bye, Jonathan.
Thank you
See you in a
so
couple of
much.
weeks.
Thank you. Bye now. Thanks a lot.
And
look at that. A rose between two thorns.
Ah, are you boys?
Well, I'm all right. I'm going back to university so I can ever understand your WhatsApp messages to me, because I just every time it could be the simplest thing, and I'm going, I haven't.
What?
What am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. So then I feel daft and I have to send endless messages back. Anyway, Thursday's fine. That's good.
Right. Good. Yeah. We've got a date. I'll put full stops in next time. It's just WhatsApp is just a stream of consciousness. So you have to work out where the full stops are.
God, you never want to be inside my head, because stream of consciousness, it'd be like Portnoy's Complaint meets Last Exit from Brooklyn. Anyway, anywho.
Hear about your week first. Phil, how about your week?
My week has been quite relaxed, thank you, because I've done the unthinkable. I actually took time off of work, which is very unusual for me. But I was ever so slightly bullied into it, because we have a bit of leave that needs accumulated and needs using up before the end of January in our company. So what happens is that any leave that's not used up by the end of January is just wiped away. So it's almost a case of use it or lose it. Which is quite, to be fair, it's not denigrating my employer. It's standard practice. That is quite normal. It's just quite unusual that it is at the end of January. Normally, it's more towards the end of April. for year ends, but our year end is January. So that's the
one
only
of my
reason.
kids, because they all work, etc., and they sell back. I'd never heard this before. Apparently, it's a new modern practice.
Sell back
You
leave. Yeah.
sell back your they call it leave. I used to call it holiday because I wasn't in the army, but they sell it back to the company. It's quite extraordinary, and that's what he's doing. Yeah.
Well, so when I worked in the ad industry for a while, you could sell or buy. So if you wanted to buy a week, you could buy a week. If you wanted to sell a week, you could sell a week, which I thought was a good idea.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good thinking.
I was considering taking a break because I haven't done anything for 6 years. I'm stopped.
See, but actually, it's a conversation that we never got around to having because obviously it's been a busy program so far.
Yeah.
But actually, I can definitely feel that my should we say equilibrium has changed for having taken that time off. So
for the better. For the better,
I think so. I think so. I certainly
okay.
don't feel as sort of agitated as I was sort of in.
So you wouldn't drive past me in the street, for example, when I'm walking the dog.
Oh yeah, and just not say hello to you because I didn't realize it was you buried under Eskimo's clothing.
No, listen to this. I phone him, right? And I said, "You've just driven past me." "Oh, have I, old boy?" You see what says that? I said, "Jeff, I saw somebody wrapped up walking a black mini schnauzer. It wasn't like just walking a dog. How more specific would you need to be?"
Excuse me, I recognized Ebony, or at least I thought I did. But
Yeah,
she had just had a haircut, so I wasn't sure.
Well,
and not only that, even if I recognized Ebony, you, excuse me, were under a sleeping bag. I've never seen anything like it. It wasn't even that cold. No, it was not that cold, for goodness sake. Seriously, you literally looked like you were some sort of like walking dustbin. I've never seen anything like it. Buried, absolutely buried under this massive green. What's wrong with you?
He was hiding. That's what he was doing. He was hiding.
And you got the
I have no words. I have no words.
Well,
anyway, now you've asked Phil, the smiling assassin, how his week was. I will answer how my week was. Not that the question was posed, but I'm just going to assume, tacitly that it was going to be posed. I performed a funeral as a celebrant on Monday, and it all went well and went smoothly. And the most wonderful thing is when the widow wrote to me straight away, which I was not expecting, just lost her husband, and said some very nice things. So that's that. And then yesterday morning, in the middle of a meeting, the phone went twice from 2 different people, and I have 2 more funerals booked for February. Yeah. So something I take very, very seriously, and obviously it's taking it more.
Do you find that it brings your mood down, Russ? Or do you find
not at all. No.
The sort of energizing and regenerative in a way?
I'm going to be serious for a sec, which I know will come as a shock to people, but that's the other side of me. It's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done, ever in my life.
Wow.
The most fulfilling. It is. It's a service to others at the time when they really need it. I've been there myself. I know what it's like to be in a complete tailspin, and suddenly you've got to plan a funeral. You don't know which way is up. You've never done it before, probably. So
do you actually are you instrumental in helping them plan it then?
Completely, yeah.
Wow.
I'll do as much or as little as they want. I'll organize, because I'm also going around seeing, a lot of my time is spent seeing funeral directors in the area, various areas that I'm going to be operating in, of course, so they get to know me. And one of them said, "We've got a question. Do you take on the order of service?" And I go, "Yes, I will do that for you," because that's the bane of their life. They're busy. And so I will work with the family and do the order of service. We would choose the music, make sure the music's all ready. I mean, that's the least of it, using a special system that crematoriums and chapels have, which I have access to. And then, of course, there's the eulogy. And many times they don't want to write. They're not writers. Why would they be? And so I will just take huge notes. I have a very, very detailed sheets and sheets and sheets of stuff, which I have at the family meeting. It's called a family meeting. And then I go away. I'll write the eulogy. And for this charming woman on Monday, the only changes they made to a long eulogy was they added the names of some dogs, some extra dog names. That was it. And they said, "Oh, we don't want to talk." So I do everything, or if family wants to do the eulogy, I will help them write it if that's what they want, step aside and that they can read it. It's entirely up to them,
Incredible.
It's the most when I say uplifting, it's so fulfilling. It's quite extraordinary. I come out feeling quite, it's not like a job, it is a vocation, and something clearly I think, you have to find the time in your life when it's right. And this felt right. This was the right time. And it's been a year.
And I'd imagine as well, actually, that it's quite a privilege to be with or to be entrusted in that way. What is ultimately the final moment in this life anyway for that particular individual.
It's a huge honor. And I think people just think, oh, you're just being glib when I say it's an honor or privilege. It is an honor and a privilege because this is one of the most emotional times of their life. They're saying goodbye to someone that in most cases, 99%, they loved very dearly. And it's entirely up to you because once what we call curbside, so when the hearse arrives and I've met the funeral directors and we'll meet, and then we bow at curbside, and then we bring the deceased in, or as I call them, the guest of honor. I prefer to call that. The funeral director then leaves and you are in charge. There is nobody else.
Yeah.
People think, oh, you've got support. There is only you. No one else to do the entire service. So it's a big deal. It's a huge responsibility. I take it very, very seriously. And I want to make sure that they go away under horrible circumstances as satisfied as they can be. And they feel that it was a service most befitting for their loved one.
Well, I'm very proud of you for taking it on, Russ. I think it's a really, really good thing for you to be doing.
Well, thank you. Chantal, I mean, you've worked with all A-listers and everybody else, and Phil does the same thing. That's the milieu in which we work. But to be able to find something where you can bring what you hope are your two strongest strengths, once speaking in public, which I've obviously done for years, and writing, and to be able to combine that is, if I say a joy, it sounds odd, but it's rare that you can do that. That's what I'm thinking. And give service to others. That's the most important key thing for me. Anyway, there we are. That was my week.
Wonderful. Well, what a great week.
Oh, yes.
It kind of tops me having a week off, doesn't it? But never mind.
And ignoring me on the street. Yes.
You really might have to get over that. But anyway.
I can't. It's too big. It's a deal breaker.
It was you under the duvet, for goodness sake.
Well, if you see a big green coat, it's always me. What have you seen, Chantal?
Just going back to how we spent our week, I got a week back this week because I was due to go to Los Angeles for Burns Night, which was last night, as you may know. To do a fundraiser.
I did what any level-headed person would do on Burns Night. I celebrated it at the synagogue. I'm not joking. We had a special Burns Night.
Was that Rabbi Burns? Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. I'm here all week. Try the chicken.
So you didn't go to America for Burns Night. So what did you do instead then?
And so I've managed to watch a whole load of television that I didn't think I was going to get a chance to see. So I've had a fantastic week, just rather leisurely this week, catching up on a whole load of things and watching some great telly. And there is so much good telly out there. I can't believe how much there is. Stuff that I think that both of you will like, starting with something called Griselda. Have you seen the first episode?
No, I just saw it come up on the screen the other evening.
It's really good. It's new drama from the team that made Narcos on Netflix, and it is a true crime drama featuring Sofia Vergara. If you ever watched Modern Family,
I love her.
She was the sort of crazy Colombian wife, the young wife. She's a brilliant actress, so much better than, she's brilliant in Modern Family, but actually she's got real breadth. And she plays this woman who was known as the cocaine godmother. She was as far as we know, the most important drug cartel queen, if you like, who left Colombia and set up her drug business in the United States. And it's a 6-part drama about her. It's set in 1978 when they've shifted the timelines of her life around. She did actually go to New York first, but where we see her is arriving after a horrible event that happened in Colombia. And she has fled Colombia with her 3 sons and arrived in Miami, in Coral Gables in Miami, which is the area where a lot of Colombians live. And she basically sets up her drug business. It's quite violent in places. I was sort of quite surprised that you see her and you think, well, and she's playing this larger than life character. And you think, yeah, I'm sort of going to be able to get into this. And then suddenly it turns more violent than expected. She is absolutely fantastic in it. The story is terrifying. This woman, actually, you really feel the horror of who she was and who she became. Pablo Escobar, the famous cartel guy, said she was the only woman he was frightened of.
Wow.
Which sort of says absolutely everything that you need to know.
Apart from Phil's mum.
Obviously.
I don't think Linda and Pablo have met, but yes.
Well,
So, I
think they bumped
haven't,
into each other.
but
I
who
think they
knows?
bumped into each other at Nosha's one day. Anyway,
That's
maybe.
not
be
fair,
Yes.
Linda. Definitely not fair. I'm defending Linda.
Suspicious sprinkling of salt on the salmon bagel, but let's not dwell on that.
Really? Okay. I'll remember that for the next time I come up for supper.
Picture that now.
Oh, dear. Anyway, Griselda
Great.
on Netflix. Okay, if you want,
Ooh,
if
could
you
you
want a
imagine
weekend
snorting a
up-
bagel? Oi, that'd be terrible. Gracious me. It's doing a line of
Your
salmon.
mum- I've got to explain that Phil's mum is the most charming, loveliest woman on the planet. The thought of her being a drug baron.
I don't think so.
On Friday night, a special Friday night dinner, a special treat for the guests, a line of smoked salmon.
I have something quickly to throw in because they're pushing it a lot, which is Detective Forced, not Detective Frost, Detective Force, which is a Polish 6-part mystery, right? And I binge watched the whole of it in one night because it was pretty gripping, and it gets darker and darker and darker and darker. Acting's very good. Scenery is amazing because it's set in the Polish sort of mountain regions. It's not urban at all. It's all that. I would no spoilers. I'm not that stupid, but no spoilers. I got to the end episode, which is the massive climax of this 6-parter thing, and it's very, very dark, and everybody's covered with blood. I couldn't tell who anybody was. I watched the last 2 scenes 4 times, and I thought, I have no idea what's just happened. I can't. So I immediately had to go on to Google, and there were loads of it. Please explain the ending of Detective Force, which I did. I'm saying no more. But I was like, wait a minute, I've just invested 6 hours.
Okay.
Hang
on. Did you end up feeling really frustrated by the ending?
Yes, I did, because it doesn't say that this is season 1 of season 2, and you're thinking, but it was so good. I'm pretty good with these things, but because it was shot in darkness and the people were covered in blood and everything, I couldn't tell who the characters were, and I thought
you're selling it well, Russ. I've got to hand it to you.
No, the rest of it is the last 4 minutes is like, what? But the rest of it is.
So wait, you've got to get through 5 hours and 54 minutes or 56 minutes before you get to the last 4. What am I missing?
Nothing wrong with your maths, is there?
No,
well,
I think I'm just going to
said there was ever so slightly something wrong with my maths, because initially I said 54 rather than 56.
That's it, of course.
Given that I work in an industry where timing is everything, that's not completely ideal. And I may have just given myself a P40. I may have just given myself a P45, but it's fine.
Well, your maths is so bad, you're giving yourself a P42.
That's correct.
Anyway, there we are.
Couldn't make the maths work.
Or 41.
Yeah, right. Have you seen this? I don't know what this is. The Offer. Francine Warner saying we've been watching The Offer, which is amazing.
Yes,
I don't know.
Came out ago. I think we talked about it on the show last year.
Oh,
okay. I think we did, and I'm struggling to remember. I've got a feeling it's about one of the religious cults but I could be wrong. No,
Well,
I'm almost
Francine,
sure.
do tell us. Let us know what it is. Can I just sort of throw in something into the works as well? On ITV Hub at the moment is a series that it's by the same people who do Long Lost Family, and the series is called
about it.
Born from the Same Stranger. So
you tell us about it, because I'm delighted.
No, you're here.
No. You've done the research. I couldn't possibly. I would feel so wrong depriving your efforts.
No, but I'm delighted Phil's seen it, because I thought I was going to say to you, Phil, because I know you like it.
Yeah, no, it's about this. It's about the making of The Godfather.
The Offer.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, well done, Fran. Well done, Fran. That sounds fantastic.
It's completely wonderful. I think it was on Paramount. It came out last year. The lead actor is the guy from Downton Abbey, whose name has just gone.
Hugh Bonneville?
No, the other guy.
No.
It'll be the guy who played the guy who died in a car crash because he had to go to Hollywood.
Not Dan Stevens.
Oh, not Daniel Stevens. No, Dan Stevens.
No, he was Lady Doodah's husband. God, I'm not on
Lady Doodah's husband. I don't remember him.
Handbag.
Anyway, it'll all come to me, but watch. The Offer is brilliant. We did talk about it on the show. It's on Paramount, and so a lot of people won't have Paramount, but my God, it's worth watching.
Yeah, sorry.
What Phil was referring to is a sort of slightly clumsily titled new 4-parter on ITV, which is called Born from the Same Stranger, which is a little bit confusing, but basically this is about children whose parents were donors, either egg donors or sperm donors, and they are trying to...
Hang on.
You know what they should have called it?
Wait for it.
They could have called it Schlong Lost Family.
I'm saying nothing.
Oh dear, I do apologize.
Oh dear. You're going so well.
I'm so sorry. I've got to get better at these things that come into my mind. I've just got to learn to let them go. Anyway, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, don't say everything that comes into your head.
There's something better left.
For God's sake.
I do apologize.
I think all three of us are like the monkeys. Oh God.
Right, I'm so sorry. Yes, anyway, Born from the Same Stranger is its actual title.
Born from the Same Stranger. Anyway, it is a serious program.
Oh no, you think she's joking. Look, this is my cousin, right? Who's like my sister. Explain.
No,
she won't get the joke.
Frank,
I promise you, she will not get the joke.
Please.
Fran world versus real world. Anyway, there we go. All right.
Just pretending I don't understand.
No, she really doesn't. No, she really doesn't.
I tell you what, Fran, we'll explain it later.
Can we cut to the chase?
Crying out loud. Yes, anyway. So it's children who have been born by either sperm or egg donors or both. And it is actually quite interesting because, of course, if you think that Long Lost Family is very much about people not knowing necessarily where they come from and their history, this is arguably even more challenging for them to actually know.
Yeah. And we can only get there because of the new genetics testing that has come out in recent years, 23andMe and all of those sorts of those wonderful things. And so that what it allows them is often to find their siblings, because siblings are the ones who tend to be coming up straight away on the research if you enter your own data. And so often they will find, well, I've watched 2 of the programs so far, that actually the donor doesn't want a relationship with the child, but the siblings do, which is absolutely fascinating. So suddenly there's one of the families that they talk about where there are 21 of them who have all been sired by the same father. and the siblings all want to meet, and they become a family in their own right. It's an incredibly well-made program. It's not mawkish, it's not prurient. It's absolutely fascinating about how these family dynamics play out. And there isn't always a happy ending, but it's really worth watching. It's a very considered, very well-made series on ITV. Anyway,
I do think it's worthwhile saying, though, that in spite of it being by the same people who make Long Lost Family, if you think of the fluffy nature of Long Lost Family, it's that's very, it's endearing viewing is Long Lost Family. That's what it's there for. It's designed to feel good. It's designed to, as I say, be fluffy. I can't really think of any other words to describe it.
That's the word.
Whereas this, I would argue, has had all of that sort of fluffiness removed. It's quite raucous in parts. It's quite to the point. And I would say that I'm not so sure how I feel about the fact that they just sort of say, okay, well, go on national television, you swear your head off if you want and stuff like that, in a bid to try and make it more real to what people's emotions may be. I guess it, but I just don't think it's necessary.
All right. Okay. I didn't pick up on that. Maybe you were feeling slightly more sensitive about these things than me.
Always.
What, Phil, Mr. Sensitive? Yeah, right. That's going to happen.
Oh dear. No, sadly, I think I'm the queen of bad language. Well, not all the time, but
you're
sometimes.
not. I've heard you swear once, and I won't say who it was about because they've passed, and I thought they were a marvelous person. No, I don't.
No, I know who you mean.
No, you don't.
What? The person we've spoken about off air before, I'm sure.
Maybe. I don't know. Let's move on.
Anyway, moving on.
Moving on, there is a brilliant new series. Well, in fact, it's not new. It's the second story of a series called Murder Trial, which is a Scottish BBC Scotland series about trials taking place in Scottish courts. And this is in the Aberdeen High Court. They did one last year, I think, and now this is a follow-up trial, a different trial in Aberdeen. And of course, in the Scottish courts, you're allowed to take cameras in. So when I say this is true life crime, this is the law in action. You literally have interviews with the lawyers, you have interviews with the detectives, you have interviews with the family. But basically, everything pretty much happens in the courtroom. So some people don't want their faces shown, and that's completely fine. So they've cut people off at the neck, basically, so that, you know, experts and people like that aren't identified. But this particular story is so extraordinary. It's another story of genetics. It dates back to 1978, just as the story that I was telling you about Griselda, the drugs queen. That was 1978 as well. This is a female scientist, very, very clever woman who's in genetics, strangely. I mean, how ironic that her own death, her own murder, then is resolved through the use of genetics 40 years later. I mean, it's an extraordinary
40 years.
And the person who is on trial is her octogenarian former husband. I'm not going to tell you any more than that. It is so electrifying. I could not stop watching it. It's incredibly well made, as you would expect, and it's very sensitively handled. But my God, it's a story that it's forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards, and it reveals itself like a flower opening up. It's astonishingly good, and it's called Murder Trial, and it's on BBC Two or the BBC iPlayer. Really worth watching, about this woman called Dr. Brenda Page, who died in 1978 at the age of 32.
And it took 40 years to come to trial.
Absolutely.
I wonder if he thought, I got away with it. I got away with it. Oh, no, I haven't.
Yeah. She knew she was in trouble, and she had said to somebody in a letter, if I die, make sure I have a good post-mortem, which, you know, I mean, that really was a foreboding, but it's a great story. It really is worth watching, and it's not. And
how many parts is that in?
2 parts. It's just
2
hours.
That's all right. Oh, good.
1 hour. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Anyway,
marvelous.
So that's
Chantal. I'm so sorry, but we're sort of out of time.
No, not at all. Lovely to be here. Lovely to chat to you both.
Lovely to see you. And our gain is Los Angeles' loss.
Thank you for that. Well, I'm happy to hear about that.
I will be back on Monday with Neil, and the rest of our gang will be back, all being well, with a fair wind next Friday. Until then, try and stay out of trouble, everybody. Bye-bye.